So I think the biggest mistake we make as humans is that we try to make sense of something that can't be made sense of. It's like an ant stuck on the back of a melon or a watermelon, or stuck somehow inside a watermelon trying to make sense of the rest of the entire planet Earth from being stuck in that watermelon, right? We have no idea how tiny of a particle Earth slash this level slash quality of reality is. Um, and I think this dips into the domain of quantum physics quite a bit. But as humans, we make an error where we think, especially in modern times, that there needs to be a certain proof, a scientific proof for something to be true, which is so absurd to me because the second that proof comes, that phenomenon was already true before. So it's like, just because something hasn't been proven doesn't mean it's all of a sudden false. It just means it hasn't been proven by science. Astrology, for example, lots of the esoteric works, everything based on an intuitive mind, an intuitive view of looking at the world, an energetic view of looking at the world. But it's been pretty much, down. It's been pretty much proven. I mean, there's been studies on astrology. There's like energy workers are getting more and more attention. There's countless examples. If you even just think about like the moon's tides. I mean, if I had a full moon journal right now, of like the tensest times in my household, like it's always 2 days before the full moon, or yeah, 2 days before the full moon, right when that energy starts to peak for me is like 2 days before the full moon. Then we're like, okay, we get it. The full moon, the day of the full moon is usually more like, okay, it's like the waves already hit you. But I think that going back to my original point, is that humans think like, okay, they come into life, they have this framework explained to them through the education system, um, and they get broken away from their minds, from their ability to think freely, to think with an a priori mind, meaning a blank slate mind, right? And it makes one, it separates one from one discovery, from actually like discovery, which in my mind is creativity, right? The ability to have an open mind going into the day, saying, like the universe, the world, it's such a crazy magical thing. Like I just don't understand it. Like I've seen glimpses of what things could be, what time could mean, but going in with that kind of child's mind, that interest, that mystery, that intrigue, that not knowingness, right? Which I think is such a powerful healing tool, which is something that's so, not just a healing tool, it's just such a, like when you go into life like that, it makes things interesting, and it's more based on reality than having a pessimistic, atheistic attitude. I'm sorry, I'm getting way more, I'm not sorry, but this is a way more philosophical um, type of video than astrological. I mean, they all play together. But if you think about the irrationality of atheism and nihilism, and like meaninglessness in life, and all these, like just this strict rationalism based on science and pure, everything like empirical point of view, um, it's it's just as fucking nuts, as is maybe more nuts than someone who believes in energy and believes in a unifying force, and believes in love as the unifying force in this galaxy with different planets, and everything's fucking like up in the air. Like there's no set value, like, and we try to create this sort of like solid ground, right? We try to create this sort of solid ground from which we can exist and live a life that's normal, right? So society is basically that. That's like the Saturnian, it's ruled by Saturn, right? It's like to create a solid ground which we can then feel rooted in our root chakra, go through life, feel good, feel the feel good hormones and all of the stuff in our brain, our body, and all that, and make sense of a life. We've created a life, a system. You go to school, you do this and that, you hopefully meet a nice, person to get married to, maybe have some kids, eventually settle down. There's like all types of archetypes associated with middle age and late age and in childhood. And yeah, some of it's backed by psychology, but then at the same time, at what point do I want to fucking follow this bullshit fucking rules? You know, I don't want to fucking be a fucking, I mean, I don't want to be, I'm not saying I don't want to be a dad. That's not something I've decided yet, but I don't want to be like a boring fucking middle-aged dude. Fuck that shit. I want my life to get more exciting, especially with the more money I have and the more freedom I have. I want to travel more. I want to take more risks. I want to have more adventure. I want to discover more, right? And it just goes back to what I'm saying. Like, at what point are your beliefs, you know, of this solid reality, this consensus reality is what is the term I'm looking for. At what extent, this is a question to everyone, at what extent are your beliefs limiting you? At what extent are your beliefs on anything? Relationships, right? Like, do you have a view of how it should be, of how your life should be? If, oh yeah, I need to like meet this person, we need to have kids, I need to like, you know, be the, you know, this person, this archetype. But like, why not, like, and this is where astrology can sort of help, is that astrology, it can reveal your individual chart, and it can show you your individual unique archetype, not just some fucking bullshit like society says, like puts you in boxes, like you can be like this. Oh, you're creative, you're an artist. Oh, you're a professor. Oh, it's like, no, fuck that. I can look at my chart and tell you that I'm fucking like Sag moon, Leo rising, Pisces sun, conjunct Mercury, Venus and Aquarius, Venus and Mars. Like, I'm not your average fucking dude. And I can look at someone else's chart and be like, this is, you know, this is your archetype, or the potentials that you live within, right? And imagine how fucked up it would be for someone to live their life so unaccording to their truest being. So, regardless, what I'm saying is that Saturn gets broken down by Uranus, Saturn being the consistent reality, the reality that we believe in. Right now, Pluto brings transformations in depth, like death, rebirth, transformation to that Saturnian reality. And that's what's happening in today's world with Pluto and Saturn together. And we start to see kind of glimpses of like how fake and how unbased on reality it truly is. And how when we actually think about the word reality, we don't really know. And that opens up a lot of freedom. And through freedom, you find individuation, you find growth, you find intrigue and mystery, which to me is the most important part of life. You feel like you're growing, you feel like you're continuing, you feel like you're waking up, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, there's some mystery. And there's always mystery with God and with karma, with your fate, you know, like you think you feel stuck, okay, you better be sure that that's not going to be your entire life. And if it is, there's karmic tests, and they're never the way that you plan them or that you would think they are. You know, I feel like we kind of create our own ideas of how our life, like even myself, I have like ideas of how my life is, like I even want it to go, or like ideas of it, but I know that like shit can happen that can completely fuck that up, you know? Like, what if I got like a disease or something? What if I fucking like got sick, you know? Like, I don't think these things are going to happen, but like, what if that's where my lesson was supposed to come from? What if it was all, you know, anything can happen. So that's kind of just basically explaining my big view, you know, my overarching, one of my biggest values is, I guess you could call it intellectual curiosity. And it's more than just intellectual. It's like philosophical curiosity, just being open to not knowing, open to, even if you're like this, you know, this astrologer or someone else who's like a, you know, someone who's attained a high spiritual place, it doesn't fucking matter. You can be at the same time that and like a sad, scared boy or girl, you know, like you can have hold both of those dualities where like you still you're like very, very evolved in certain ways, but then you have a lot of like childhood trauma or like pain or like tendencies that aren't very strong, and you're kind of like trying to balance the two out. You're like, how do these two align? But it's so important to have that curiosity, because when you don't have it, everything seems set in stone, and things that are set in stone, that becomes like the shadow of Saturn, which is lifelessness. Things becoming very mundane, like that feeling of like, oh, another fucking day. And then when those little miracles, those little potentials do pop up, you're so caught in the past, future, you're not in that moment, and they pass you by, even when they're so fucking loud. And then eventually, depending on your karma and your fate and everything of that nature, at some point, if it's this life or next life or whatever, you wake up. But everyone has their own speed, and just as a human being, that's maybe one of my most important values, is that curiosity, because that curiosity, that openness to not knowing, that openness to altering. And it's very common with immutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, to have this type of these types of views. And I hold a lot of that, of mutable energy, but for others it's more difficult, and it's more comfortable to. It's not that it's more comfortable. It's that's more difficult to shift from one paradigm, especially when you're like a scientific person or someone who's been educated, who's really focused. Like I didn't really pay much attention in high school or when I was growing up in early schooling. I think I had some type of, like, I've always been like extremely good at teaching myself things, but I never was like, I always got good grades, pretty good grades, but I never cared in any school I've ever done. Like I never really cared. The only things I've cared about is when I teach myself, and that at that level I'm like A plus 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 plus. But like when I never really like let myself get too into like when someone's teaching me something I'm not passionate about, it's really easy for me to tune out and go into that kind of Pisces. Like they used to call me Jesse in French, like in my French school, like Jesse head in the clouds in French, because I would just daydream in class. I didn't give a fuck about what they were teaching me. I was in some other fucking place, But for people who like weren't like that, and who really did take in a lot of these messages, then I think it's a lot different. And I think it's difficult because there's a lot of intellectual pride. There's a lot of pride in, like, I have spent hours, and no, not hours. I've spent years reinforcing these beliefs and going deeper, and there's some truth in them too. I'm not downplaying truth in science. Science is something. Science is real. Science is fucking awesome. Like the technology that's been created. Like it's a slower way. Science is a slower way with proof to get to where you could get to through intuition, if that makes sense, through higher intuition. But the good thing about science is that it gives you a map along the way. So I'm not ever fucking like against science or anything like that. Don't get that wrong idea. I'm saying that some of the best scientists ever, best inventors, were people who actually had a spiritual longing. Like Albert Einstein, Pisces Sag. Different people like that, have very, very creative. I'm not saying I'm fucking like Einstein. That's just the obvious one that comes to my fucking head because he has the same sun and moon as me. But like my point is that no one that's a Pisces sun, Sagittarius moon, it's impossible for you not to be spiritual. You just can't. And I know that he was, and that he used that imagination to imagine something that could be real, and then he went and found the proof. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is kind of me just freely expressing more, less about astrology, more just like how I feel, how I view the world, how I view life, how I view what, it's more philosophy, I guess you could say, than anything. Very open to being wrong, very open to being right. I think we all just need to be more open-minded and more okay with being wrong, and less insecure about being stupid or being labeled a certain way if we're wrong. Anyways, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and hit up my website for astrology readings, because that is what I do. Okay, bye.